Okay, hello Russell. My name is Raewyn. I'll be your interviewer today. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions on this paper, and I'll start off with just tell us about yourself and why you're here.
Okay, well, my name's Russell Orr, and I'm 64 years old, so not retired yet. I haven't got my gold card, so I'm not looking forward to retiring either. So I've still got a few years left of me, and I was born on a farm. I can shear, I can fence, I can cut scrub, but I got sick of those things real quick. And so I joined the police for 21 years in the Eastern Bay, and yeah, that was life-changing. So I thought I better not do too much more of that. After 21 years, I left, and I bought a kiwi fruit orchard, and I started a security company, and I got elected to council in 2004. I've been there ever since. So I've been campaigning for 15 years for this job, done my apprenticeship, and I'm the Liquor Licensing Commissioner for the Eastern Bay, so decide all the liquor licensing applications. And I've chaired the hearings committee, district plan stuff for the council, so I've done my apprenticeship. And here I am. The natural progression is, after all that, next step, the mayor.
Alrighty, so on to your next question. What are you passionate about?
People. I'm passionate about people. It wasn't until I joined the police in 1979, just before the Springbok tour, in fact. The Springbok tour was 1981. So I ended up involved in that. Before your time, I can tell. Way before your time. But an interesting time in New Zealand's history. And straight away, I got involved with people. And that's what the police do. That's basically all their job is people. And I have met over my career hundreds of thousands of people. All sorts of people. People like you. People, victims, offenders, old people, young people. Usually when bad things happen to them, unfortunately. So that's my passion. I'm passionate in people.
That's cool. Alrighty, so on to your next question. What is your fondest memory?
Oh, my fondest memory? Well, how far back do you want to go? Oh, that's a hard one because, I mean, I've got so many fond memories. The older you are, when you get to my age, you just get so many. I mean, I guess my fondest memory was growing up, and growing up on a farm in the King Country, and in a very isolated area, and the self-reliance you had. We were like an hour's drive from a shop, and yeah, just the things you did as a young kid growing up on an isolated farm, pig hunting. All those sort of things, you know, fishing, creeks, swimming in water holes, yeah, all that sort of stuff. I mean, you can't do it now. Times have changed, and we don't have as much freedom now as we used to. So there you go. That was my fondest memory, I think, just growing up.
That's cool. Alrighty, so another question. Who is someone you admire or look up to?
You're going to be surprised about this, I guess, because this is a person you probably would never heard of and never know about. His name was Gideon Tate, and he was the Commissioner of Police in about the 1970s. And so I was growing up in the 70s, and I was looking to do something. I got sick of farming and cutting scrub. And I heard Gideon Tate speaking, and it was during the period of great gang unrest in New Zealand in the 70s, when the Black Power and the Mungal mob were first, coming to the fore. And I remember he said, "Never back down." And I looked into the man and I thought, wow, I wouldn't mind being like him. Look, times have changed since then. I mean, that man was the Commissioner of Police back in the 70s, and this is, the 2019, so I understand things have changed. But I still admire that man and what he stood for.
So cool. That's so cool. I love that. So you told us a little bit about your youth before, but do you think you can just give us a little bit more if you want?
About my youth? Oh, I was a bad boy in my youth.
And you went to the police?
Well, you know why I went to the police? because they wouldn't have me in the traffic cops.
Really?
They wouldn't.
Traffic cops?
Yeah.
Not the ones that would like do the signs?
Yeah, well, back in my day, when I was younger, the Ministry of Transport was separate from the police. You know, the black and white cars?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were separate. It was a separate division. They weren't amalgamated with the police until 1992. But anyway, back in the early days, after I'd had enough of farming, I joined the railways and I got stationed in Oakuni and then Hamilton. I was a young fella, about 18 or 19. I was going in the pubs. I was partying hard. I was getting in a lot of trouble and I got a motorbike. and then well, trouble with motorbikes is they go too fast. And next minute the traffic cop was after me. Next minute I was getting tickets. Then I got disqualified from driving. And then I got over that phase. And a few years... No. Well, a few years later, I thought, after I saw Gideon Tate, I thought, oh man, wonder if I should be a traffic cop because I like motorbikes. They did. They had motorbikes in those days. Traffic cops had motorbikes. They didn't all have cars, no. And I went down to the traffic officer's office in Tamaranui and applied to join up. And he told me to get out of his office because I had all these speeding tickets. And he says, yeah. So I walked out of his office, round the corner to the police station. And the sergeant there said, "Oh, you're a big boy." He says, "You look fit and strong. Come on, we'll have you." And that's how I got into the police. So, yeah, I didn't go in young. I mean, I joined the police when I was 24. I mean, that's old compared to you, I know, but and it's young compared to how old I am now. But I had a bit of life experience when I went in, and that served me in good stead. I think if I'd have gone in the police when I was young, I mightn't have survived.
Alrighty, that's cool. So, do you think that if you grew up in a different circumstances, say like if you weren't growing up on a farm, or like if you were like in the city, do you think that would have altered the way that you turned out today?
No. You're opening a whole can of worms on the question of nature versus nurture. Have you ever heard of that debate? So that debate is about whether or not a person becomes who they are because of their DNA, or whether they become who they are because of their upbringing. I believe I became who I am because of my upbringing. So it wouldn't have mattered where I was brought up. My parents brought me up to respect other people, to have values and to stand for something, and that was the most important thing, not where I was born. We were poor. You have no idea how poor we were. And my first memories when I was young was, we were living in a really, really old house with scrim on the walls. It was drafty. Possums used to live in the roof, and we only barely had power. I think we had power for light switches, and we had no power points in those days. So it's not where you're born, and it's not how poor or rich you are. It's how you're raised. It's got a big difference on what you turn out to be. So there you go. Answered that one.
Awesome. All right. So I've got a long question. So what were your goals and aspirations when you were younger, and how did you achieve them?
Well, when I was younger, my goals and aspirations started out basically to be able to ride my motorbike without falling off, to be able to drink a yard glass without falling over and spewing, because everyone used to do that. I was brought up in a day when I've got 2 yard glasses, and the thing about the yard glass was you had to drink it. No, yard glass is yay big. And there's a secret. I'll tell everyone now. If you want to know how to drink a yard glass, don't put bottled beer in it, okay? Use draft beer. That is the number one secret to drinking yard glass. Because you know how you're supposed to drink it? You're not supposed to put it down. You lift it and you keep drinking. Anyway, but anyway, I digress. What was the question again?
What were your goals and aspirations when you were younger, and how did you achieve them?
Okay, but seriously now. When I left home, I wanted to go to university, but my father couldn't afford it. We didn't have student loans back then, And so my goals and aspirations really were to do as well as I could and be the best that I could. And I wanted to do better than my father, really. That was my most important aim. Because he'd done very well. He had a farm in the King Country that we lived on, and he worked hard to get that. And I thought, if he can do that, I can do that. So I played for a few years, joined the police. Then I saved hard. I bought a kiwi fruit orchard, started a business, and yeah, I did all right.
That's cool. Alrighty, so another question for you. Who are the youth of Kopeopeo?
Sorry, who was that?
Who are the youth of Kopeopeo?
Who are they? Well, I don't know them personally, unfortunately. But they are young people like yourself, born in the after the year 2000, who I guess live in a rural provincial town, think that they have limited opportunities, but don't really. Not sure what they want to do, and I think are struggling to find their identity a little bit. Is that who you are? No.
Alrighty, so what do you think it's like to be a young person in Kopeopeo?
I wish I was a young person in Kopeopeo and knowing what I know now. That's the difference, isn't it? I mean, to be young in Kope now means you've got the whole world in front of you. And I've finished most of my life. So if I haven't done it by now, there's very few things left for me. I'll never be, for instance, a doctor. I would love to be a doctor. I'll never be a scientist. I'll never be any of those things. The best I can hope for now is to be the mayor. But you guys, you've got your whole world in front of you. So what a marvellous opportunity you've got, really. Incredible. You can be absolutely anything you want to be. Anything. The trouble is, of course, you've got to make the most of it in early life because you only get one life. And if you muck it up at the start, you're pretty well stuffed for the rest of your life, ain't you?
Alrighty, another question for you. What do you think it's like to be a young person in Kopeopeo?
Well, I can talk more about the young people of Kope. I actually don't differentiate between the young people of Kope and the young people of Wakatani and the young people of Te Cheko and the young people of Taniata. I think now everyone's got transport options. They move around. You'll be in Kopeopeo now, and this afternoon you'll be somewhere else. So the young people of Kope to me are the young people of the Bay of Plenty, or the young people of the Eastern Bay. Yeah, I know you like to identify with a little area of town, so it's like your own little home. And Kope is small enough. I mean, there's some elderly people that live at the Golden Pond, and this to them, Kope is their whole world, I think, because they don't travel. But you guys travel. You can't tell me you don't. You just get out and get all over the place. So, to me, the young people of Kope are the young people of the Eastern Bay and the young people of the country. No difference.
Okay, that was pretty cool. So, do you recognise the different stereotypes here in Kopeopeo?
Don't like stereotypes. Well, it's a bad word. Using a bad word, I mean. We used to get that all the time in the police. They said, oh, you're stereotyping people. You're judging people by the way they look, or the way they sound, or the way they talk, or how they wear their clothes or everything. And I go, oh, okay. What about the fact that when we see someone with a gang patch on the back, we stop them? Oh, they can't do that. That's stereotyping. I go, no, it's not. That's called profiling, actually. So there's a difference between stereotyping and profiling. You understand that? I think you do. Do you? You know the difference? So stereotyping is judging people on what they look like. Profiling is targeting people because of an ethnicity. So you don't judge them, but you might say, okay, there's 3 people running away from a burglary. So you've been called to a house and someone says, there's been a burglary there. And you pull up and 3 people run in different directions. And one is an old fella with a cane. And one is a woman with a pram, and one is a Maori boy about 17 with a hoodie. Who are you going to stop? That's called profiling. And yeah, so stereotyping is a whole different thing, and I just don't do it. I don't believe in it. I don't like it, but I do profile, I must admit. But you've got to do that. For instance, if council is going to target resources, we have to know where we want to target that, and to do that, we're profiling. We say, who's in need of help? Is it a particular demographic in a particular place? Is it young people in Kope? Well, that's profiling. But it's not stereotyping.
Alrighty. So another question is, what is it like to be a person your age in Kopeopeo?
Well, I'm actually not in Kope. Well, I am in Kope now talking to you, but I don't live here. I live out at Titeka. So really hard for me to understand how it would be for me. But looking around, it's got a village atmosphere, isn't it? It's more family than, say, Whakatane. It's people know each other here a lot more, I suspect, and it's strange because it's only a small town, and yet we have these two distinct business sectors and two distinct communities. I think that's good. I think that's people who like this atmosphere live in Kope, and people who don't live somewhere else. But I can't say what it's like because I don't live here. But from what I can see, I think it's quite a neat place.
Alright, that was cool. So, alrighty, what is another question? Oh yes, what do you think the young people of our area want our decision makers to know about them?
What do we want to... That's a funny question. You want to know... I don't know. What do you want to know about us? What do you think the young people want to know about us?
I guess that what we would like to know is what exactly you would like to change in Kopeopeo, whether or not there's going to be an upgrade, if there was going to be. Yes, just stuff like that.
Oh, well, that's getting into my comfort zone. Exactly. Kope's overdue for a bit of a refresh. We call it refresh when we go through and we redo the footpaths and curbing, put some traffic islands in and plantings and stuff. It's not bad, but every now and then you have to refresh sort of town centres to give them a bit more life into them and put in some facilities that the community want. So constantly what council does is we listening to our community, we want to find out what they do. And I've said to people time and time again, I'll listen more, talk less, and work harder.
That's cool. Alrighty, so another one is, I have two more questions for you. What do you think our young people feel should be important to our decision makers?
Sorry, say that again.
Okay,
What do you think should be important for decision makers?
So what do you think our youth feel should be important to our decision makers?
Who wrote these questions? What do I think Kope youth think should be important to our decision makers? What do Kope youth think should be important? What do I think you think should be important? Oh, man. Look, decision makers could mean anyone, but I presume you're talking about council decision makers, are you? Right. The most important thing, I believe, for councillors is to know what the community want. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky because different people want different things. And I've worked out a long time ago that you can't please everyone. And I stopped trying because I've seen politicians trying to please everyone. No one respects them. because they know they'll just say one thing one day, depending on who they talk to, another thing another day. When you ask them a question, they sit on the fence, won't give you a straight answer. I don't like that. I think that you need politicians who listen to people and make good decisions, not necessarily ones that please everyone, but are good for the long-term future. One of the problems is that councillors, in my view anyway, some of them, tend to only think in terms of a 3-year cycle, so they're only worried about what happens till the next election. But we've got an obligation to think at least 30 or 50 years ahead, because some of the stuff we build and some of the decisions we make are going to affect people years from now. It's going to affect my grandchildren, your children. And so that's not popular decisions, because that might not help the people now. And so they'll go, oh, well, why should we vote for you? You're not going to do anything for me. And I go, well, no, we're doing something for your kids. Oh, too bad about them. Oh, they can look after themselves. What about me?
Alrighty, so our last question for you is, do you think it's important for everyone to vote?
Well, of course I'm going to say yes, absolutely. I'm going to tell you why. I lost 2 uncles, great uncles, in the war, in the First World War and in the Second World War. Essentially, they died for democracy. And New Zealand believed that we should support England and we should support the free world and we should support democracy. So they went over and got shot for democracy. And then I hear people telling me, I don't want to vote, doesn't do any good, not going to make a difference. Man, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. I think my generation understands more the power and importance of democracy than the younger generation. So all I say to people now is, I know young people don't vote. Get out there and vote, because if you don't, you'll lose it. And if you haven't got democracy, have a think about what life would be like for you.
Alright, so that is all the questions that we have today. Thank you so much. And yeah, are there any last words that you wanted to add?
Of course, I'm here to push my nomination for mayor. And I just want to make one comment about that. There was the woman the other day at a meeting said, she said, I don't think you've got enough passion or drive. And I said, look, every person's different. I've got strength, and strength is quiet. Strength will never be strong. If you see someone running around with hedgehogs under his armpit puffed up, that's not strong. That's just dumb. So what I'm offering people is strong leadership. So I'll make tough decisions. I'll make hard decisions. I'll say what I think. And I'll work twice as hard as anyone else. But that doesn't mean I'm just going to go around parading, yelling at the top of my voice about all the marvellous things I'm going to do. I'm just going to get on and do them.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you.